Yo, 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 what's up? We're live here with DJC Combat. I know a lot of y'all wanted me to go live, so here I am once again. So, there's a lot to talk about in the world of MMA. We got WonderBoy versus Usman, which I guess is confirmed to be the next fight. And then I also want to talk a bit about maybe UFC 291 and Alex Pereira's future at light heavyweights, how far he's going to go. And let's talk about Rose as well, man, because she's making headlines. And then, of course, we got to talk about the fight this weekend. Not the main event. I'm not that excited. I already know what Corey's going to do to Font. Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez is where it's at. But Usman versus WonderBoy. Wow. I did not think that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was actually going to agree to the fight. I really didn't think so. I thought he'd be like, oh, well, this guy's a wrestler and he's going to try to take me down. And I discovered that I can't wrestle for shit against Bilal Muhammad and Burns when I got destroyed and completely exposed. But hey, I guess Wonderboy gets it. You know, he knows that if he wants to be a champion, he's got to step up his game and be willing to take on any and all comers. What's good, Toron Brown? Oh yeah, me too. Usman wins that fight by a landslide against Stephen Thompson, and I've been saying for like the last few months that I have a feeling that Usman's gonna win his next fight, and I didn't know who would be against. But now this might be it. They're gonna give him Stephen Thompson, and he's gonna absolutely ragdoll Stephen Thompson. The only way like I see Stefan winning this fight is if Kamaru's like just completely washed up, or if he just throws the fight and chooses not to wrestle. Because obviously the only way that Wonder Boy's gonna win is if he can keep it standing and impose a striking. And the only way Usman's gonna win is if he wrestles. No in between. Doesn't Rose fight real soon? Why are you asking if she's done? Did she back out? Well, I mean, did you hear what she was saying recently? Did you not hear her recent interview with Helwani where she's talking about how her last fight she didn't feel aggressive and that she thought that she was just dunzo, you know what I mean? And still questioning her motivation and her motives for fighting. She's unsure and she's second guessing herself. And every time she loses, it's always the same thing. Oh, I might retire. I might be done. So if Manon Fiorot does beat her on September 2nd, this might be the last we see of Rose, or she's going to take another year layoff and turn down fights and then maybe come back for some fight after a year. And it's just going to be the same thing. So yeah, Rose might be done. That is in question right now. It took her over a year to accept the fight. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. And she declined other fights. You know, she didn't want to come back in the strawweight division and fight strawweight contenders. She declined Marina, McKenzie, and Xiaonan, um, and decided not to. She decided to stay irrelevant and stay out of the spotlight. Well, the person that she defeated twice became the champ again and took care of someone who Rose should have easily beaten. And somehow Rose is okay with that. She's like, okay, whatever. And she's like, oh, I could beat her again, but what's the motivation in that? I mean, Rose, I'll tell you what's the motivation in wanting to fight, Wei Li again. I mean, think about it. Think about it. There's every reason to want to fight her again because, for one, a lot of people thought the first one was a fluke, and then in terms of the second one, a lot of people thought it was a robbery. And then since then, you had an absolute dud against the person that Whaley destroyed. Whaley has looked unstoppable since that second fight, winning two in a row, two consecutive stoppages, and now is the two-time champion. And now everyone's talking about her, and no one's talking about you. So you could easily come back and try to remind everyone and try to show that you're the best strawweight in the world instead of just leaving off that absolute dud of a performance and then saying, yeah, now I'm going to go to flyweight and take over. Like, I don't know. I don't agree with that, but it is what it is. It's her decision at the end of the day, but I think it's a stupid one. Zhang beat Rose in the second fight. Yeah, I mean, I personally scored it for Rose, but if they fought a third time, I'm picking Weili. I'm picking her 100%. Let me read some of these comments. She has like severe anxiety and depression. She's already had an incredible career. Let's be real. Yeah, she has. I mean, a lot of thorns in my side, a lot of sour moments. But yeah, she's had a good career, two-time champion. Um, so yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for, right? Two-time champion, beat some of the baddest women out there, good resume. But I just feel like there's so much unfinished business and there's just so much more that she could have done. It's like there's this empty void that if Rose were to retire right now, it's like she had a good career, but she could never defend the title more than once. She had a good career, but she lost to Carla twice, who she should have been able to beat the second time around. And she had a good career, but she keeps losing these fights because of some, mental problem, because of some midlife crisis. You know what I mean? We've never seen that happen to Weili. I don't think that'll ever happen. We've never seen that happen with Joanna or any of these other fighters. So I think she has to go on a run in this flyweight division and just completely make up for every mistake that she's made in the past. Because if she loses this fight, then yeah, I don't know. Her stock might take a big hit depending on how the performance is, though. Yeah, I think it's a definitely for me. Yeah, this is the one thing that was stupid though, where she said, she contemplated retirement because it's not godly to hurt people. Look at so many other Christians or Jesus lovers who are in MMA and they know it's part of the job and they love what they do regardless. But Neil Dariush, Christian, and he's an MMA fighter, and he's still fighting, doing it in the name of the Lord. Same with Charles Oliveira, Vitor Belfort, in his prime, decapitating dudes in the name of Jesus Christ. Same with Yoel Romero. He's still kicking it. I mean, I don't say he's losing because he just came off one loss and was winning two in a row prior, but still, look at Yoel. Um, you know what I mean? Like all these other fighters who love God, you know, they're not saying the same thing. So with Rose, that's no excuse. That's no excuse. Like, come on. God isn't telling you that, oh, you shouldn't want to be violent, you shouldn't want to hurt people. Like I don't think God, I don't know. I want to say God doesn't care. I know some of y'all might not be believers, but I'm sure God loves when, his disciples are, doing sports and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think he looks at MMA and he just completely spites it. I'm sure, like all of us, if God is real, he gets that MMA is just a sport. It's not, I mean, it's a cool sport, but it's a sport. It's not evil. So, yeah, they should rebook Thompson versus the Brazilian guy. They should, but Stephen Thompson will not give him another chance because Michelle missed weight. Can't blame him, but if I'm Thompson, I'm just going to try to make that fight happen. Well, no, he can't because Michelle Pereira got kicked out of 170. So, yeah, they're not going to rebook that fight. Let me read more of these comments. You the best MMA channel. FMA Guru. Do y'all see his beanie reveal? I'm absolutely shocked. Seeing his hair. Like I didn't imagine him to have this big curly hair, and seeing him moving forward without the beanie is just going to be awkward. It's going to take some getting used to. And I think personally, he looks better with the beanie on. I really want Tony Ferguson to retire. He just needs to accept the fact he doesn't have it anymore, and that's okay coming from a fan. Toron, this is what I've been telling you, man. We've had a bit of disagreements here and there on Tony's future and what he should do. And I kept saying he should walk away and that he's not going to win this fight with Bobby. And that fight makes me so mad because it's like the Chandler fight, there was like a glimmer of hope in the beginning, an early knockdown. Tony looks good. But then the fight goes downhill and he gets completely dominated and melted. Um, and it annoys me too that he got eye poked. He got poked in the eye. Um, He got poked in the eye by Bobby, and that could have had some effect on the performance and on the outcome because Tony dropped him. The pace was frantic, and then out of nowhere, Bobby pokes him in the eye, and then Tony loses momentum and momentum that he couldn't get back. And in fights, momentum is very important. And if you lose momentum, whether you hurt someone and then it gets split up, or you have this perfect position you worked hard for, having that taken away from you when that happens, getting it back is very difficult and near impossible. So in that sense, Tony could have got screwed over. I'm not trying to say what Bobby did was intentional, but it's just frustrating thinking, what if he could have won or done a lot better if not for the eye poke? And then Bobby didn't sit on the lead and he took down Tony and subbed him. Oh, that's so embarrassing, man. I mean, if you're Tony and your specialty was your ground game in your prime and you're getting submitted by a pure boxer, that's how you know you're done. Like Tony's ground game, I've been saying for like the last few years, is gone. I mean, he's easy to take down now and he offers nothing off his back. Nothing. And this was the guy who was supposed to be a threat to Habib. Now it's like you take him down and he's useless. And Bobby was sitting in his guard, ground and pounding him, and a prime Tony would have just been able to control the wrist and elbow Bobby Green in the head and then maybe get up or actually threaten submissions or even get a submission the longer they're on the ground. But that just shows how badly Tony regressed. Like, do you think, I don't care how well-rounded Bobby Green is, if you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you're supposed to be really good on the ground, you shouldn't be letting Bobby Green take you down and submit you. Like, do you think Green would take down Beneil Dariush, let alone submit him? Nope, he would do neither. Do you think he would take down Charles Oliveira and submit him? No, he wouldn't be able to do that. So, yeah, that's just sad. It's just heartbreaking. I've been saying that Tony should have retired after he lost to Nate Diaz. It should have been a double retirement because Tony was happy despite losing because, no shame in losing to Nate Diaz and two legends going at it. And I felt that was the perfect fight for him to just be like, you know what, I had a good career. This was a good fight, but I'm done now. I'm going to hang it up and I'm going to focus on different things in life. He decided to be delusional and he wants to live up to BJ Penn's legacy, catching all them L's in a row, Really frustrating. He could have retired in peace after losing to Nate Diaz. But now if he does retire now, I mean, it would be a good idea regardless of how it will look, but it just would have looked so much better off the Diaz fight, And that fight really ruined the card for me. I enjoyed UFC 291, but it's like every time we have a good card and Tony's on it, we always have to suffer through him losing. And it's like that's the one thorn in everybody's side if you're a Tony Ferguson lover. Let me read more of these comments. No one's denying that, but being 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out in a sport like this is not smart. Even though I feel like Rose's fate is written out for her already. Yeah, I agree. And if Rose thinks that it's not godly to want to hurt people, then she's in the wrong field. You know what I mean? This sport isn't for her anymore. I'm sure that since she's found Christ, she's had a change in heart, like Rory McDonald. And I respect that. Everyone's different. But if that's the case, then you got to stop. You know what I mean? Like, Rose is just complicating this for herself. Like, she doesn't have to fight anymore. If her heart isn't in it, if you're unsure, that's a sure sign you got to stop. It's either you're in it or you're not. There's no in between. So I don't know why Rose is still fighting. Is she still fighting because Pat Barry is trying to fight or trying to get her to still fight? Or does she just feel pressure like, well, you know what? I have this talent. Why not? And she did say that, maybe God isn't done with this part of my life. But I'm just thinking, if God ain't done with that part of your life, Rose, then your mindset going into this Manon fight would be, all right, I'm back and I'm not looking back. There's no turning back. I'm sure This is what I want to do in the long run, and I'm here to stay. No BS. That would be the case. That would be her words if God truly wasn't done with that part of her life. But again, this is nothing to do with God being done with her fighting or not. It's all on her, and she's just not taking responsibility for her own decisions and her own feelings. DJ would beat WonderBoy by taking him down and ground pounding him to oblivion. Haha, good joke. Good joke. Good freaking joke, man. I mean, if I was a fighter, me personally, the last guy I'd want to fight is WonderBoy because I mean he's so difficult and complex to figure out. Like unless I already came in with like top level wrestling, then maybe, but I would have to go out there and wrestle him. But yeah, you don't play fighting exactly. If I'm being honest, bro, I feel it's easy for us to say Tony needs to retire because we don't know his financial status. Maybe he needs to fight for money. I mean, that could be true, but there's other ways he can make money. There's other things he can do to make money. You know what I mean? He can make money off being a coach and helping the next generation on the come up. You know what I mean? There's other ways that he can be financially good. So I don't think it's a money thing. I think Tony, the reason why he's still fighting is because of his spirit. His body isn't there anymore, but he still has the confidence and he's determined to get another win. You know what I mean? And he's crazy and he's delusional and he's not realistic and he's not going to let people tell him that hey, you're done. Stop fighting. He believes in his own mind that these losses are not because I'm past my prime. These losses are because it's just part of the game and I'm losing and I just need to do better. And it's like, no, Tony, your performances are declining. Your body is declining, but he just doesn't get it. And I don't know what it's going to take for him to retire, man. I really don't know, but I don't think it's financial. Yeah, that's how I see it too. Pretty much. I feel like Michelle and Angela took her down a little too easily and was able to control. Who are we talking about? Oh, Amanda Lemos. Ah, yeah, Prime Tony kills Bobby Green. And these people saying that Tony would lose to all these guys in his prime because he's just overrated and was never good. These people are dumb and they don't know anything. So I think prime Tony, the only guys that I think he would lose to of all the guys that have beaten him in these like past six fights, I think Tony versus the past six guys that have beaten him. So Tony, prime Tony versus Justin Gaethje, I'm still taking Justin Gaethje because I think Gaethje is just a bad matchup. Unless Tony like catches him with a big shot, like that uppercut he caught him with, I think Gaethje is just all around better. You know, Tony doesn't really. I mean, he has grappling, but he never threatens takedowns and doesn't really have an ability to like traditionally take people down. And he's got a different kind of pressure. It's not like a Charles Oliveira kind of pressure, like a Beeb like pressure. And I think Gaethje is one of the few guys who could deal with that funky style of Tony. And I think every time he outboxes Tony Ferguson. But I think Tony against Charles, prime for prime. That's a tough one because Charles Oliveira is like a little more. He's like a more measured version of Tony Ferguson. He's like a Tony Ferguson that plays by the books, that follows every proper fundamental and is more technical, more powerful, better wrestler, better jiu-jitsu. So I think based off what we saw in that fight in 2020, like Tony had moments where he landed on the feet and cut Charles off his back. I think Tony's tougher than him though. I think it's close. I think it's a close fight. And it could go either way because Charles could still outstrike him, and he can still out wrestle him. So I'll say Oliveira would win in similar fashion to how he did in 2020, but I think it's a closer fight. I just think Oliveira is just more technical and slightly better everywhere and would probably just win on the ground and win a decision, but there's always a chance that Tony Ferguson could break Du Bronx. But Beneil Dariush, Tony Ferguson claps Beneil Dariush prime for prime. Tony in his prime melts Michael Chandler. I mean, Michael lost the first round to the ghost of Tony Ferguson and got a lucky up kick to the face. If that was prime Tony, Chandler's getting mauled by Ferguson. I don't even know. I didn't even need to break down how. I just know. Prime for prime against Diaz. I think it's a war much like their 2022 fight, but I'm still have to go with Nathaniel Diaz because he's like Tony, another tall, lanky Mexican who's tough and has heart, but is a better boxer, equally as tough. So Tony can't really break him, and he's better than him on the ground. So I think it would go much similar. And Tony has always struggled with like good boxers, but I think that fight would probably go to a decision, and I don't think Tony would get finished. But yeah, Tony in his prime against Green smashes Bobby Green, destroys Bobby Green, not even competitive. So I picked Tony to beat so Beneil and Green, and I said he'd lose to. Oh, so I picked. So I said Prime Tony beats 3 out of the 6 people that beat him in his last 6 fights. So I think Tony would go 3 for 3 against those 6 guys in his prime, but he has a good chance to beat any of those guys because Prime Tony was him. He was just that guy, and I do think he could have posed Khabib some issues. Whaley armbar round 4. I thought you said Whaley was going to win by split decision. Or was that someone else? Was that AM2? Well, I think she changed her username, but I'm pretty sure it was you or her who said that Whaley wins by split decision. But yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think Whaley is going to get the finish. I just think Zhang Whaley too crafty, too complete, and she just has more ways to win. Like the only way I see Whaley losing is if she gets caught by something, which is possible. Like it's a dangerous fight for Zhang. She could get knocked out, but Whaley, I think she's going to avoid a slugfest. She's going to use her speed and her athleticism to her advantage. Uh, keep Lemos at bay with like side kicks to the body, chop at the legs. And then when she closes the distance, that's when she's going to grab a hold of Amanda rather than getting an exchange, and then she's going to get a takedown. And I think my overall prediction is I think Whaley is going to hurt Lemos, but instead of chasing a finish once she rocks her, she's going to be smart knowing that Amanda is still dangerous and can hit back. So she's just going to drag her to the ground and get a submission. That's what I see happening. Okay. I believe Tony Ferguson goes through depression and mental health problems. That's why I get tired of people making fun of him, how they treat people who deal with those issues. They feel it's a joke. Yeah, I know. I know. A lot of people just lack the empathy, you know. Not many people have talked about Whaley versus Lemos. That's gonna be really good. That's gonna be a banger. Yep. I feel like Rose can win because Manon has holes in her striking. Yeah, I mean, Rose Namajunas could win, obviously. You know, she's talented enough to beat Manon Fiorot. But with Rose's recent interview and everything she's saying in her mindset, it's like we can say that Rose on paper is better and should win, but Rose on paper was better than Andrade. Rose on paper is better than Esparza. And look what happened in both those fights. So she's no stranger to dropping outcomes to fighters that she's better than. And I wouldn't even say that she's that much better than Manon Fiorot. Like, as someone who was like a Rose fan and stuff like that, just being honest, Rose isn't able to dominate her toughest competition down a weight class. Manon is going to be a tough fight. You know, that's the toughest opponent they can give her in flyweight. And how she looks against Whaley in the rematch, Joanna in the rematch, Jessica Andrade in the rematch, and Carla even though she didn't even try in that one, it's like, how can you see all those fights and be like, yeah, she's going to go up and take over the division? Like, Conor McGregor, when he moved up from featherweight to lightweight, and same thing with Volkanovski. These guys were dominating their competition down a weight class. Like, no one was on their level before they moved up. So it created excitement for their transition. Like, okay, when these guys move up, can they deal with the lightweights, or are they going to be too small? Where Rose, I don't think she has that same factor. And if, let's say, Rose moved to flyweight like in 2020, back when Jessica I was like your second best in the division, or Kaylin Jukagian, then maybe I'd be more confident in Rose taking over flyweight, because flyweight back then sucked. But flyweight now has evolved, and there's so many good girls in that division that I think if you put Rose in the mix, she's just gonna fall behind, and not even just because of her size, but these other girls are very skilled. So I'm not sure if she beats Manon, and she definitely doesn't beat Santo. She doesn't beat Aaron. She doesn't beat Alexa Grasso. Yes, I think Grasso wins that. And I think Valentina would win that fight with her as well. Let's see what other comments I've missed. If you feel God doesn't want you to be fighting, then fine, but make up your mind so you don't take up space in the right. Facts. That's exactly what I said. I respect Rose. I respect her conviction. I'm also a fellow Christian as well. So I get it. But if you feel like for your story, God doesn't want you to fight anymore, then just stop. Just stop. Because you're not only taking up space in the rankings, but you're basically toying with the emotions of the fans, because Rose has so many fans who want to see her fight. They're uncertain of her future. And like these fans, they get worried, like, oh my gosh, is she going to retire when she loses? When is she going to come back? And I think that's just something that the fans shouldn't have to deal with. And I don't think Rose Namajunas is very good with her fans. That's why you guys don't see me standing Rose the way I used to. I still like her, but I don't like her to the level that I used to. You know what I mean? And it's not that I just switched up because I'm just a bad, unloyal fan. I had my reasons to kind of take a step back from heavily supporting Rose Namajunas. And I would hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. Because with her, all the drama that she brings, it just gets exhausting, And as a fan, it's just like, this is not something I want to constantly have to be like dealing with. And the fact that she willingly threw away her legacy for free against Carla and is just okay with that. Me as an MMA fan who has standards of what I want to see from an MMA fighter, it's just like, yeah, I don't know, man. DJ and me gonna fight Alexis to the death. Tony has hurt so many people. Facts. Gertrude, yeah, Rose's middle name. I think so too, but my concern is Whaley, if she goes straight into the fire and gets hit a lot, she needs to be careful. Yeah, I mean, that is concerning, but Whaley comes from a good camp and from a good team, and she's very smart, and then she knows what she's doing. Like when she fought Jessica, she let Jessica come to her. You know what I mean? She was patient. Jessica's the one who initiated the firefight, and I think Whaley, knowing that Lemos has power, I think she's going to be willing to sort of play the matador in this fight. Like, I think Whaley knows she has a good enough understanding to know when it's the appropriate fight to be the bull and when it's not a good time to be the bull. So I think she's going to get that memo. And Whaley has very underrated distance management too. How fast is Corey going to brutalize Font? I think he beats Rob Font by decision. He could finish him, but Rob Font, we've seen him be able to last in fights even through getting dropped, and he's able to get up. And Corey Sandhagen, a lot of his wins, I mean, he can finish people, but he's more of a decision guy. I don't think he'll have the power of a Jose Aldo to hurt him with every clean punch he lands. But I said the same thing about Vera, but Vera is also that kind of guy where it's like he's patient through an ass beating, and then he comes back and hits you and you just crumble. Corey doesn't really have that. So I mean, even if he hurts Rob, I feel like Font can be tough enough to survive, like he survived Cheeto, like he survived Aldo, and make it to a decision. That's what I think. But I do think it's going to be like an easy fight for Corey, because Corey's just too dynamic, too crafty. He's tough enough to handle the power of Font, and all he has to worry about is Font's boxing. No takedown threat, no ground game threat, no kicks. I mean, Font does have good kicks, but they're not going to work on Corey. Zhang will beat Rose. Zhang's going to crack Lemos. I agree with both. Aljo going to strangle Skinny Boy O'Smelly. About that fight. I mean, I don't know. I think Sterling's going to win the fight against Sean, but I like to think that it's not going to be as easy as people think. I think O'Malley is a dangerous fight for Sterling. He surprised a lot of people against Peter Yan. A lot of people did not expect him to do as good as he did, and he did good enough to where he could be gifted a BS decision. And I know Sterling's style is different, but I think from that Piotr fight, I think his wrestling's going to be even more improved. And I mean, I know with Aljo, everyone knows what he wants to do, and no one is really able to stop it. But he knows that Sterling's best weapon is the backpack. And I think that I don't know. He has a good understanding of what he's dealing with. I think for Sterling, O'Malley has the most dangerous striking that Aljo's ever had to deal with because he's got better boxing than Corey, more power than Corey. Like he's like a similar body type and style to Sanhagen, but better hands and more power and better at controlling distance than Corey Sanhagen. So, I mean, if he can keep Aljamain Sterling on the outside and Aljamain's not able to get close and get a hold of him, Sterling is going to be in a lot of trouble. I'll tell you that much. And my gut tells me that this fight's going to last 3 rounds and it's either going to go one or two ways. So how I think the fight is going to play out. So I think Sterling in the first round is going to get a takedown and he's going to have O'Malley in trouble, but then Sean's going to surprise people with his ability to survive on the ground and he's actually going to get up and he's going to escape the back take of Sterling. He's going to get up. He might even reverse Aljo, but he'll just let him up. And then round 1 will end 10-9 Sterling, but O'Malley survived. Surprise, surprise. Round 2, I think O'Malley's going to do a better job keeping Sterling at bay. He'll see the takedowns coming. He'll be able to avoid them. And I think Sterling's going to get hit a lot in that fight. I think he'll get picked apart in the second round. And I think O'Malley's going to win the second round, but he'll probably get taken down towards the end of that round, but it will be too late on Sterling's half. And the third round, it's either going to end O'Malley finds the kill shot and knocks Aljo out, or Sterling takes back control with his wrestling and then gets a submission. One of the two things are going to happen. That's how my gut tells me this fight is going to play out. And my gut tells me that whoever wins, there's a third round finish. So either way, it's going to end in the third round. But I do think O'Malley is going to make this fight interesting. And it's going to be somewhat of a fun fight. I don't think it's going to be like a typical Aljamain Sterling domination. Now, I will say that Aljo's toughest matchups are behind him because all the guys who should have been able to beat him, like Piotr Yan, Dillashaw, and Henry Cejudo, he got through all of them. And I thought Aldo was a bad matchup, but, Sterling's boyfriend, Merab, retired Aldo, so I guess we'll never know in that regards. I think Merab could actually take Sterling, but he's Sterling's boyfriend. He's not going to fight his boyfriend, so I get it. But he took care of TJ, injured and past his prime, but still, TJ is a formidable style to deal with a guy like Sterling. Sterling won. Sterling beat Peter in the second fight. I don't think he beat him twice. I'm going to say he beat him once. In my mind, that first fight's a no contest because Jan had him through the knee. He got DQ'd, but he beat himself. But Sterling beat him in the second fight. And then Aljo, with the Cejudo fight, could have gone either way, but he won. So he's fought a bunch of wrestlers who should have been able to cancel out the wrestling and beat him on the feet. But now he's fighting a pure striker like O'Malley. It gives a lot of people a reason to think that this is going to be easy work. So I don't blame people for thinking that he's going to run through O'Malley, and he might run through O'Malley. But I'm trying to hype this fight up the best I can. I'm trying to give people a reason to be excited because I do think that O'Malley is going to have moments. And if he loses, I feel like it's going to be a performance where it's like people are going to be like, wow, Sean O'Malley did better than expected. He'll be back. He'll be champ after Sterling leaves. So I hope I'm right about how the fight plays out. I mean, I want O'Malley to win, but I just hope that he does well. I hope he just doesn't go out there and get easily smoked because then That will be disappointing. But O'Malley is not the risky bet that I want to take because, like I said, Sterling beat his toughest competition. So now he's got a guy who's favorable. There's every reason to believe that he's going to win this, but we'll see. I love Marab. I don't. You know who's good? Cameron Saman. Is he that South African guy? Jan's next fight, he won't get dominated like that. I hope not, man. But someone put some bad juju on Peter Yan. This guy's not been able to win a years. So, and he's looked worse. He's looked worse every time. Well, not worse every time, but that Marab fight was the worst Peter Yan has ever looked. He went from losing close split decisions to now getting 50-45. Then Jan's confidence is going to be in question. So I just think if they give him the right opponent, he should be able to bounce back. But I would be scared if they gave Jan like a Song Yadong, then I feel like Jan would somehow lose that fight. Suarez taking Andrade down. Yep. Tatiana's going to submit Jessica Andrade. Sadly, yes, Jessica is too small to stop the wrestling. Yeah, and Jessica got ragdolled by Valentina Shevchenko in the wrestling department. Now, I know Valentina is more skilled than Tatiana and more complete, but if Valentina is taking you down and keeping you down, imagine someone with the wrestling expertise and caliber of Tatiana. Yeah, she's in a lot of trouble in this fight, in my opinion. Now, yes, even though Andrade is on the L streak, I do expect because Andrade's back is against the wall that we're going to see the best Andrade we've ever seen. But Tatiana is going to be ready, and she's going to meet her in the middle. And Jessica in this fight has everything to lose. Tatiana has nothing to lose. And on Tatiana's end, I mean, Jessica's the one who has to be perfect in this fight. She has to be perfect. She's got to watch out for the takedown. She's got to be careful with how she closes the distance because Tatiana, she doesn't pose any like counter-punching threat like Rose or Yan Xiaonan, but there's the threat of the level change, and she's got to be smart with how she enters and how she's able to react to those takedowns. Because if she just carelessly blitzes Tatiana, she's going to end up in a bit of a mess. And she can't go out there and impose her wrestling on Suarez or try to wrestle with Suarez or pick her up and throw her, pile driver, because Tatiana will just defend the takedown and she'll use Jessica's momentum against her and she'll probably reverse the takedown. So for Tatiana, literally all she has to do is just watch the basic hooks of Jessica, pump a jab in her face, keep a tight guard, and then the moment Andrade overextends, boom, level change. And I think the fight's going to be a wrap from there. I think Jessica is just going to get dominated on the ground. What do y'all think about Martinez versus Yanez? Good fight for Adrian Yanez. I think they gave him too big of a step up in font, and I just think he's not ready for that level of competition. So I think a fight with Martinez should be good for him, and hopefully he can get that one done, and we'll see what happens from there. But I do think that Yanez needs more time to build his skills, like outside the top 10, before we can give him another big push. Peter Yan not living up to the hype he is. I know, it's so freaking sad. And it's so annoying because it's just like he really could have been something if it wasn't for that knee. You know what I mean? Like if he didn't throw the knee, I think he cruises to a decision against Aljo, and then he defends his belts against Corey Sandhagen. I don't think Sandhagen versus Dillashaw would have happened. He would have fought Corey well, who knows? They might have actually done a title eliminator between TJ and Corey. Then the winner of that fights Yan in Abu Dhabi. Yan beats the winner of that. So he would have fought Corey because Corey was healthy enough to fight him in Abu Dhabi. So yeah, same going. Second defense against Corey, third defense against Aldo again, and then maybe he and Aljo would have rematched, but I don't know. I feel like with Sterling, I feel like the UFC would have kind of forced Aljo to really work his way up, and I think they would have kept giving Aljo on the come up because the UFC really didn't want Sterling as champ, and they really didn't want him to get a title shot, so they would have given him a harder road to get back. But Jan would have at least had 3 defenses and been the champ for like 2.5 years, and would have built a good legacy for himself. But he threw the knee, beat Corey, and then now is on a losing streak and he's way behind. And it's doubtful that he catches up at this point. Yeah, Jan's definitely got good body kicks. I mean, he broke Aldo's rib with a body kick in the first round. That's why Aldo shot for a takedown, because of that kick to the body. He just fought Murad, the best guy in the sport, pound for pound. He beat Sean. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, either fight. I think the first fight with Sterling made him overconfident and too cocky, and then I think the second fight made him feel like, wow, this guy was better than I gave him credit for. Now I respect him, but now I'd be afraid. I'd be a little more at a mental disadvantage if I fought him again. And then yeah, I just think going forward, that made his confidence take a bit of a hit. Like not everyone can handle a humbling that well. Some people can be humbled and they can come back stronger. Other guys can be humbled and they can be like, oh, I don't believe in myself the same way anymore. But Jan, what he's doing is he's changing camps, and I hope the camp switch goes well for him. Usman versus WonderBoy prediction. Kamaru Usman by unanimous decision, 50-43, because I think it's going to be a 5 rounder because WonderBoy wants a 5 rounder, I think. So it might be a 5 round main event of a fight night. And yeah, I just think Usman's just gonna ragdoll him, because it's not like Kamaru's fighting this like young, up and coming talent. He's fighting a guy who is old like him, older than him, and I think Wonder Boy is further removed from his prime than Usman, and he's stylistically favorable for Kamaru because he's shown when he's fought guys who are well rounded and can wrestle that he's not able to defend himself in that department. Bilal Muhammad put on a wrestling clinic. Same thing with Gilbert Burns, who Usman beat. So there's every reason to think that if he can't stop takedowns from Muhammad and Burns, is he going to be able to stop takedowns from Kamaru? I highly doubt it, man. I highly doubt it. Usman's wrestling may not be like as dominant as it used to be, and I think his takedowns are a little bit easier to deal with now, especially post head kick. But his wrestling is still good enough to take down Wonder Boy and control him on the ground. I just think Thompson, he's just not well rounded enough to deal with Usman and to negate him like that. Like if Usman were to fight Bilal Muhammad, I'd have my doubts because even though Usman at his best in his prime murks Bilal in 2023, and with Bilal reaching his prime and Usman sort of leaving his, and with Bilal's level of takedown defense, that's a tough fight for Kamaru Usman because Bilal can box with Usman. He can stuff his takedowns. He's got the stamina to keep up with them. And if you make Usman strike for too long, his striking doesn't look that good. So, I mean, he has a decent jab, 1-2 straight, but I don't know if he'd completely outstrike Bilal, and I don't know if he would chin Bilal Muhammad either. Although I do think a prime Usman would knock Bilal out. That's a tougher fight that I'd be less certain about. Same thing that if he fought Shavkat Rakhmonov, Khamzat Chimaev. So many tough fights for Usman in this top 5, top 10 of the welterweight division, but Wonder Boy is the most winnable fight. And if he somehow cannot beat Stephen Thompson, then yeah, bye-bye Usman. Love you, one of your biggest fans. That's the case. Because there is no way Usman should lose a fight like that. I will say, like maybe in the first round, Usman might struggle to find his range for a takedown because Wonder Boy's got that footwork and that movement. and he's got to be careful when closing the distance because WonderBoy can counter him. But I think eventually he'll get a hold of him, take him down, dominate the first round, and he's just going to keep doing it round after round. So that's what I think will happen. Imagine he chins Usman. Yeah, I'd be so mad if that happened. And I mean, it could happen, but Usman, the thing is with Usman is okay. Yes, WonderBoy has got a kick heavy game, and we saw Leon Edwards knock him out with a head kick, but Usman learned how to block a head kick after losing to Leon Edwards in the second fight. And I feel like for the rest of his career, he's going to be aware, and he's just not going to allow anyone to set him up with that combination that Leon threw at him that ended with the head kick. And he knows WonderBoy's a big kicker. I don't think he's going to give him space. And I mean, yeah, WonderBoy can crack if he sits down his punches, but in the third Leon fight, he went 5 rounds with him. It was a close fight. Leon couldn't shin him, so I think he'll be fine. As long as he doesn't just strike with him for too long, then I think he should be good. I mean, anything's possible, but I don't think WonderBoy will catch him. The WonderBoy might catch Usman with a head kick. Possibly, but I don't think it will happen. It's going to be hard to like set up a head kick when you're on the back foot and you're being pressured. And like I said, Usman learned his lesson from that Leon Edwards fight, and I think he's just going to be too defensively aware when it comes to the head kicks of Thompson. So don't see it happening. Couldn't do that to Muhammad. Couldn't do that to Gilbert. He's not going to do that to Usman. Although this could age horribly, and maybe he will, and I'll look stupid, but we'll see. Leon versus WonderBoy. Who would win that fight? Leon, because Leon Edwards is in his prime, and he's more well-rounded than Stephen Thompson. And I mean, in the striking, WonderBoy could be tough for Leon, but Leon is one of the best strikers in the division. So I think he's one of the few guys who could take Stephen on the feet, but then he'd also clinch him a lot. And do a lot of good work on the inside with his elbows. And he has the option of being able to take the fight to the ground. So I would favor Leon to win that. But it could be close, but I got to go with Edwards. Jamal broke Ariel today. Oh, yeah, he went off on Helwani, man. Remember when Helwani invited Hill on to argue about Dana? I actually don't remember that. But yeah, Ariel was shading Jamal Hill on that interview with Yuri. So Hill has got every right to be upset with Ariel Helwani, but Ariel pisses a lot of people off, man. He does not have a good reputation. Gabriel Bonfim versus Jack Della. That's a good fight. I'm glad Cerrone finally knew it was time to retire because he was just like Tony in the denial he wants to keep, but something told him it's time to hang up the gloves. Yeah, but Donald Cerrone is sane. That's the thing. Tony is insane. So I don't think Tony will ever reach that point. I just think someone's going to have to force him to do it. Leon has mastered striking. Yep, he does. And Leon was a more dangerous fight for Usman than WonderBoy is because actually well-rounded and WonderBoy isn't. So yeah, I'm very confident that Kamaru wins this fight. But I mean, if the boy does win this fight, he'll be the number 1 contender. He'll probably leapfrog Bilal for a title shot because he's a fan favorite, and he'll fight the winner of Leon versus Colby. And if Leon wins, I know the fans are really going to want to see WonderBoy fight another fellow striker in Edwards, because I think he has a better chance at beating Leon than he does Colby. He's not beating Covington. How will Leon deal with Colby Covington's wrestling? That's a good question. That is a good question. We're gonna have to find out. I mean, we did see him adapt to Usman's wrestling in the third fight, and maybe his takedown defense wasn't as good in the second fight because of the altitude and he was too gassed to defend the takedowns. But Colby Covington, he wrestles differently than Usman. You know what I mean? Like Usman will kind of shoot from a distance at times, and his shots can be very predictable. But Colby times his takedowns better, and he's got a better understanding of positioning when it comes to takedowns and how to use your momentum against you. He chain wrestles better. I think his grappling is better than Usman. So that's just the thing. We're just gonna have to find out when the fight happens. But Usman's style is more based around just muscling you down and controlling you, whereas Colby, you can defend his takedowns. He doesn't care. He's just going to keep shooting and shooting and shooting and making you work, holding you against the fence. And he'll take you down, let you up so he can take you down again and make you carry his weight. So Colby is more, his pressure is a lot more relentless than Usman. So even if Leon is able to defend takedowns, Colby Covington can just marab Leon Edwards. You know, he can force Leon on the back foot, put a bunch of volume on Leon, have Leon worried about the takedown threat, and Leon's defending with his back against the cage, but he's losing because he's losing the round because he's being controlled against the cage, gets taken down, gets up. That could be a tough fight for Covington or for Leon, but I wouldn't count Leon out. Sorry. But I don't believe the narrative that people are rolling with, like, oh, well, Leon beat a better version of Kamaru Usman or a better version of Colby, who's Kamaru Usman. So that means that because he beat Usman twice, who beat Colby twice, that he has it in the bag against Colby Covington. That's just complete BS. Styles make matchups. And yes, Usman and Covington are similar, but they're different fighters. Like I said, Colby wrestles different. I think his wrestling on a technical level is better than Usman, and his pressure is more effective than Kamaru Usman. So we'll see. I do think, though, if these guys would have fought maybe like a couple years ago, I'd favor Colby by a landslide. But Colby Covington, he's older. Lately, Leon Edwards has been the more active fighter. And I think with age, Colby Covington will probably not be able to get away with inactivity like he used to when he was younger. And man, I mean, Leon's confidence right now is at an all-time high. He just beat Usman twice, he knocked him off the pound for pound number one spot, knocked him out, and then beat him again. And he's improving, and he's reaching his prime, and his best days are in front of him, and he's in his best days right now, and he's constantly evolving, and he's had 2 wrestling camps for Usman. So I think in this fight against Colby, we're going to see the best Leon Edwards that we've ever seen in years. So I'm just hoping that we also see the best Colby Covington, because if we do, Colby might win, but there's always a chance Leon could pull it off too. 2 different dudes. Leon will kill Colby with fast and powerful kicks. It's possible. I mean, Leon has nasty body kicks, and Colby does not like body kicks, man. He's got a sensitive midsection. But Leon's going to need space. He's going to need to create as much distance as possible when fighting Colby Covington, because Leon's a guy, he needs a bunch of space for himself to be technical. He needs to be able to think so he can set up his best shots. But if Colby doesn't give him that, Leon's really going to struggle. Cerrone has taken so much damage. True. What do you think about Gaethje in Conor? Me personally, I don't think that fight happens. I just want the Chandler fight to happen, man. Like, just get it over with. I mean, I would love to see Justin Gaethje defend his BMF belt against McGregor. That would be fun, but just give Chandler the fight, get it over with, and line Gaethje up to fight the winner of Oliveira versus Makhachev too. Because at the end of the day, That's Justin Gaethje's end goal. He's on his last run for the title, so yeah. WonderBoy wants to a world title without having to fight any wrestler. What the fuck is he on about, dude? Yeah, but he wants to fight Usman. He agreed to fight Usman, so he probably gets it. He's probably like, you know what? I'm gonna have no choice. Usman was slipping shots and woke up in the hospital. Gaethje would kill Connor. First death in the octagon. Yeah, he destroys him. Colby is done. I wouldn't say that just yet. We got to see how he looks in the fight with Leon Edwards. Like, Colby could definitely look rusty. His age could show in the fight. And if that's the case, then yeah, Leon Edwards is going to win the fight. But if we see the Colby Covington that we've all known and loved and we're used to seeing, Leon is going to really struggle. Colby sucks, man. Even Bilal would beat Colby. Possibly. I mean, I don't think Covington sucks, though. I think Covington's very good. I just think a lot of people don't like Covington, so they don't want to give him credit. Let me see what other comments I missed. Kamara by crotch snip TKO. Who has Colby beat? Robbie Lawler, Rafael dos Anjos, Tyron Woodley, Masvidal, Damian Maia. Now, oh yeah, and he had 2 close fights with Usman because he matched well with him. But before Leon beat Usman, Usman was just making it look easy against other guys. But when he fought Colby, Colby was the guy who was close to his level. Now I get, yeah, a lot of his wins, maybe these guys were washed up, but I mean, the Maia win he deserves credit for because Maia was just fresh off having his W streak snapped and losing a world title fight. He was top 3 in the world, so good win. He beat a prime RDA who was the number 1 welterweight in the world, who everyone was talking about fighting for the world title. Colby beat him, so. And I know Robbie Lawler, he was on the losing streak, but I feel like 2019 was somewhat of like a refreshed Robbie Lawler based off what we saw in the Askren fight. And I feel like Robbie had an unlucky 2019 with how the Ben fight went. And then they just gave him Colby, which was foul. But regardless, it's a former champ that he has on his resume. I would favor Colby Covington to still be. It's more dangerous. And I think he beats any version of Tyron Woodley even. So it doesn't really matter. Colby has been a top welterweight for years, and I do think he is a worthy number 2 contender. And I do think there's a lot of guys in this division that Covington could beat. He's refusing to fight other guys because he's a prize fighter and he only wants big fights, which, yes, that is annoying. I wish he'd fight any and all comers, but I wouldn't let that distract me from the fact of how, good Colby Covington is. He's a tough guy to deal with. So Askren beat Robbie Lawler after Robbie drove his fist through Ben's face and broke him. Shavkat would kill Colby. Shavkat would probably win that fight. Shavkat is a future champion in my opinion. I think he beats Usman at this point. I'd say he beats Colby. And I think if Colby doesn't beat him, if Colby doesn't beat Leon, I think Shavkat will be the one to take the belt from Edwards. And I'll say he finishes Leon because by the time him and Leon fight, I think Shavkat is going to be further improved. And a lot of those holes in his game I see being fixed a year from now. And I think we're going to see the best version of Shavkat, close to a prime Shavkat in 2024. So, I mean, that dude's an animal. He's a guy who can strike really well with power. And he can wrestle offensively, defensively. He's got submissions. He's going to be a hard guy to beat. And he would have destroyed Kelvin Gastelum if Gastelum didn't pull out like he always does. Tyrone too busy getting fake slapped by Jake Paul. That's funny. Edwards beats Shavkat. Right now, he probably does. And I'm going to rear back. I'm not saying for sure Shavkat beats him, but if anyone's going to beat Leon, if not Colby Covington, if not Bilal in a rematch, it's going to be Shavkat. But if not Shavkat, then yeah, Leon Edwards is going to probably lap the division a little while longer. Okay, let's see what else there's to talk about. So, Alex Pereira, his future in the light heavyweight division. I wanted to talk about that. So, a lot of people expect him to run through Yuri Prochazka. I don't think that's the case. I could see him losing, but let's say he beats Yuri Prochazka. What will his light heavyweight career look like moving forward? Okay, so let's say he beats Yuri. He's the world champion. Very possible. If he's lucky and Johnny Walker beats Magomed Ankalaev, then he can fight Walker and KO Johnny Walker. And I guess we'll see what happens with Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division, because I don't know if he's going to fight Sean, but if he does, maybe the Alex trilogy will be appealing to him, and he'll say, screw Dickless Duplessis, and he'll just go straight to 205, and he'll fight Pereira. And if they fight at 205, unfortunately, Poatan will probably beat him at light heavyweight. But I wouldn't count Adesanya out. And I think a trilogy would probably go to a decision. But I'll say, if Magomed Ankalaev beats Walker and Alex Pereira doesn't fight Israel Adesanya as soon as he beats Yuri for the belt, he's in trouble, because Magomed Ankalaev would absolutely terminate him. Wrestling too good. And he's a better wrestler than Jan Blachowicz, and he's just not going to fade like that. So I think he'll probably either have one defense or none. Honestly, I don't think he'll defend the light heavyweight belt. And he's talking about wanting to go back to middleweight to complete the trilogy with Izzy, which I think is stupid. I think that's just playing to Izzy's advantage. And it's like, dude, you're older. The weight cut is too hard for you. And if you fight Izzy at middleweight after fighting Yuri Prochazka, that's going to be 2 fights in a row now where you haven't had to cut to middleweight. Your body's not going to be used to the cut. You're going to be depleted, drained, and you're going to get knocked out by Adesanya again. So it would be smart for Alex's part to just fight Izzy at light heavyweight. I don't see the difference here, because he's saying, oh, I have to beat him at middleweight. If you beat him at light heavyweight, you beat the same guy you've already beaten in middleweight before, in kickboxing and in MMA. So it's like, it doesn't matter. I think it's dumb of Pereira. I just don't agree with it. Magomed is handsome. Poatan wants to go back down. Yes, it's stupid though. It's I can't say the R word because I think YouTube will demonetize me. I'm trying to keep this channel intact, but you know what I mean. It's not bright on his half. Jiri beats Alex. I did a video on that. I don't know if you saw that, but he might. It just depends on how Jiri looks coming off that injury. If he's anything like he was beforehand, then I would favor him to beat Alex Pereira, in all honesty. Because even though, yes, Alex is super technical and he's a good striker with power, and Yuri doesn't have the grappling threat, I don't think that what's his name, Alex is going to have like the durability to withstand the storm of Yuri Prochazka like Glover Teixeira did. I can honestly see Yuri melting him with that pressure and one of those big shots getting through and putting Yuri down. Putting Alex down. Or maybe Alex catches him coming in. But the problem is with Pereira, when he's pushed on the back foot, he's easier to hit and it showed against Jan Blachowicz. Like, did you guys notice that when he fought Jan? Whenever Jan was first, Alex could not defend the blitzes of Jan Blachowicz, but Jan was gassed and Jan respected his power way too much and kept resetting every time. Whereas Yuri, he's going to take the risk, and it might go bad, but it could also go good. It's like a coin flip. But with that pressure of Yuri, I do see Pereira taking some shots. And I just don't know if Alex will be able to control the pace of the striking against Proska. And honestly, I wasn't impressed by Pereira in the last fight, honestly. I wasn't. He didn't show me anything to state that this guy is just going to take over the light heavyweight division. He won't. There's so many guys that can beat him, okay? And if he fights Jamal Hill, I think he gets knocked the F out if he fights Hill. I really think so. Because Jamal Hill is younger than Jan, and he's going to be getting better moving forward. And he's not going to stop pressuring. He's not going to stop pressuring Pereira. And Hill has a pretty good chin. And I don't think that Pereira's power really translated that well over to 205. And he looked much slower. So we'll see. But yeah, Alex could win the belt. I wouldn't act like it's a lock. Jiri will sleep Alex Pereira. Yeah, I hope so too, because Yuri's like he's like my favorite light heavyweight. Him and Jamal Hill are like my top two favorite light heavyweights. I love both those guys. So to see Yuri become champ again would make me so happy, because imagine he doesn't, he would have beat Teixeira in the rematch. And then he would have beat Blachowicz in his next title defense. And then what would have happened? He would have fought Jamal Hill after Jamal Hill beat Anthony Smith, because if you remember, that fight was supposed to happen. And then God knows what would have happened if Yuri and Hill fought. Yuri is a wild man. I tried saying that in Joe's voice. Yeah, Yuri versus Glover was like one of the fights of the year in 2022. It's too bad we didn't get to see the rematch, eh? And guys, is it just me? Or like, I don't know. Am I the only one who has a feeling that Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 3 in MMA is never going to happen? I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be one of those trilogies that fans talk about, but never happens. Like Nunes Shevchenko 3 never happened, and now it's too late. A man is retired. McGregor versus Diaz 3 never happened. It's still possible because Nate's talking about coming back to the UFC, but I feel like if it was going to ever happen, it would have already happened by now. And it didn't, and it shouldn't be taking this long. So I feel like what's going to happen is Izzy's going to defend his middleweight title against Strickland and maybe against Duplessis. And then Pereira will, I don't know what's going to happen when he fights Yuri, but he might win that. But I don't know if his first, depending on Adesanya's schedule in the middleweight division and how many middleweight fights he decides to take, I'm not sure if him and Izzy will see each other again. And plus, Alex is overcomplicating this whole thing by talking about wanting to move down to fight him again. I feel like it would be so much more simpler and there would be so much more certainty if he said, yeah, I want to fight him at 205. And if Dricus Duplessis, didn't weasel his way out of September 9th, Izzy would have tuned him up, 4 weeks from now. And then he could just easily move up and fight the winner of Yuri versus Pereira, because who else is there for him in the middleweight division? But now, after beating Strickland, he's got to fight Dricus most likely. And another point, too, is I feel like with I feel like with Izzy and Poatan, something also might happen to mess it up. Like, you know how with Nunes Shevchenko 3, something would get in the way, whether it would be Nunes losing or Valentina losing. One of these guys are probably going to lose. You know, I don't think Izzy loses to Strickland, but if any of the two between Sean and Dricus is beating Izzy, it's very possible that Duplessis beats Izzy. And unfortunately, I'd hope not, but Izzy could lose or Alex Pereira could lose. I just feel like their career paths are forever just going to be separate now. And I could be wrong, but I don't know. I just don't think it will happen. I think it's going to be left at the 3-1 score for Alex. Whitaker's next fight. That's a good question. I mean, let me look at these rankings. So he's not fighting Dricus again. Brandon Allen called him out, so maybe fight Allen. That's a pretty winnable fight. I don't want to see the Cannonier rematch, but at this point, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to make that fight. If Strickland doesn't fight Izzy, then maybe Strickland versus Whitaker. And Irene Aldana, I think if Pena loses to Raquel, fight Juliana Pena, or fight the loser of that fight maybe, or don't fight Mayra Bueno Silva, because I think she'd win, but it's too risky because Myra's finishing ability is so good. Rematch with Ketlin Vieira to settle the debate between myself and Coach Sheldon Harrison. Fight Carol Rosa. One of the two I want to see for her. Silva Irene. I mean, that could be a fight. That could be the fight they could go with, maybe. Yeah, I just don't want to see it because that Silva girl is dangerous, and I fear the idea of Myra like getting a takedown somehow, or getting a submission from the clinch, or some way somehow having Aldana in a bad position, locking in a sub, and then all these stupid Aldana naysayers continue talking their shit and saying, "I told you, DJ, Irene Aldana sucks and isn't good and isn't elite," and I don't want to have to deal with that. I'm trying to see Irene Aldana win. Unless she fights Pena, then whoever wins that fight I can be okay with because I love both. Yuri sleeps Hill. I hope so. I really hope so. Dillashaw won. Really? Like to MMA, the UFC? When did he say that? Who is Coach Sheldon Harrison? DJ loves Irene. Oh, for sure. For sure. One of my top favorite WMA fighters. I love her to death, man. And I'll ride or die Irene Aldana till the end of time, and I'll always defend her. Irene would clap Silva, no need to stress. Yeah, you're right. Because Aldana has good takedown defense. She's bigger, and her striking, her boxing is much better, and she's got the power advantage, and she could just piece up Mayra Bueno Silva on the feet and knock her out. She just has to stay off the ground, that's all. Oh, he did an interview with Rampage. Yeah, that was a crazy knockout. Coach Sheldon Harrison, you should look up his channel. Me and him had a bit of a back and forth. Remember that 21-minute video I made, Mason, where I was making my counter arguments to this dude, making a response to a guy? That's him. Because he is an Irene Aldana naysayer. He thinks Aldana hasn't evolved. He thinks that she got lucky against Ketlin. He thinks that Irene Aldana is one-dimensional. Like, he has so many negative opinions about Irene that I oppose, and him and I just can't come to terms on. DJ gonna crap his pants when Irene gets the belt. Oh, I'm gonna be so happy to see Aldana be champion. That's what I really wanted, man. That's what I really wanted. Like, between herself and Grasso, like, Grasso was the appetizer, Aldana was the main course, and I was left starving because I didn't get to see her become champ. So hopefully I get my Irene champ fix someday. Who the fuck is he? What has he ever done? He's just like a fellow MMA YouTuber who is like a fellow WMA advocate. You know, he posts a lot about WMA. He's like similar to myself in that sense. He's like a vet of the YouTube game, basically. Don't mess with my boy DJ. Yes, do that for me, please. All right, who else is on here? I'd kick his ass. I'm sure you would, bro. I'm sure you would. Man, I'm just really looking forward to this weekend, though. I can't wait to see the Tatiana fight. When is Irene fighting? Whenever she recovers her foot. Appreciate the love and support, man. It means a lot. And it's good to know that a lot of people have my back. And I put up that poll, whose team are you on? Coach Sheldon Harrison or DJC Combat? I got more votes. So that goes to show that more people agree with what I'm saying about Aldana as opposed to him. Because I'm actually looking at things objectively. Like, I may be biased, but I'm actually like, I don't know. My point of view about Aldana, I think, is superior. And he said that, oh, because I train MMA, I know more about MMA than you, which I think is just dumb. Like, obviously, if you train any kind of combat sports, you're going to have a good amount of knowledge. But even someone who doesn't train and just passionately watches the sport is going to have some level of knowledge. And training MMA does not mean you're always right. So. Oh, yeah, Tatiana Suarez is definitely going to clap her. Yeah, my picks for this weekend, Corey and Tatiana on lock for sure. Corey will be champ. Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, Corey is looking better every single fight, and his only like true nightmare matchup is Sterling. But Sterling, this is his last fight at bantamweight, so Corey's good. I think Corey could beat Marab, to be honest. I think he can beat a lot of guys behind him, so I think himself or Marab will be champion post Sterling era. That's my opinion. I can already see your reaction video to Suarez subbing Andrade, you petty motherfucker. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be so happy. Your reaction to Holly losing was just so hilarious. I had to clown Holly for losing because I wanted her to lose for so long since the Irene fight. And she did lose her next fight, but I wasn't satisfied with like a split decision where everybody thought that she should have won. I was longing to see her get stopped again, and it couldn't be more satisfying than to get rid of Holly's old ass. And that's revenge for Irene Aldana. That's what you get for 50-45ing my girl like that. She had to pay. You clown and borderline bullied home. I know I'm such a menace, eh? Yeah, she's someone else who needs to retire, but she's not going to. She's just going to keep fighting and trying to make another title run, and she's going to continue stacking up L's. How's life in Toronto? Life's been pretty decent. It's been pretty good. Can't complain. Come to Naples for us. Do a fight companion for UFC 292. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if I could travel to Florida right now, but I mean, maybe one of these days we could like go live together, and I can like invite you as a guest or something. We could like do like a co-live. Home versus Aldana 2 Redemption. That'd be so satisfying to see Irene Aldana get revenge on Holly Holm. And I think she could do it because a lot of people thought, including myself, that Poirier would beat Gaethje again. Look what happened in the rematch. So anything is possible. And Aldana is a different fighter from when she fought Holly Holm. I mean, I know a lot of idiots don't think so because, oh, well, she lost the second round to Macy and was losing, and Amanda Nunes dominated her. But no, I truly believe Aldana is different from when she fought Holly. Just her energy is different. The way she fights is different, and her ground game is improved. Aldana reacts to takedowns as of late is much different compared to when she fought Holly. Like when she fought Holly Holm and she was getting taken down, she like didn't know what to do. Now she had enough strength and athleticism to get back up. But in terms of like the technical aspect, in terms of like getting out of takedowns, that wasn't there. But when she fought Chasson, she was scrambling. She rolled with the takedown, ended up on top, nearly got a submission that she was cheated out of because Macy Chasson cheated. Um, yeah, showed a good ground game in that first round. And then, yeah, let's not talk about round two because we already know what happened in that round. But round three, Aldana continued defending takedowns. So she showed she can defend takedowns. But when she got taken down, she was able to immediately create space. And I know that Nunes took her down 6 times, but her takedown defense looked good against Amanda, compared to Pena, compared to Jermaine Duranamy. Like Jermaine just got easily thrown to the floor every time Amanda Nunes got a hold of her legs. Jermaine would just crumble and hit the canvas. Um, Pena would give up every single takedown Amanda Nunes attempted. Aldana made Amanda work for the takedowns. She was able to roll out of some takedowns. And round three, when she got taken down, Aldana was like working hard to get up, scrambling, and she reversed Amanda and she let her back up. So Aldana does have some level of grappling. That's there. She's a better fighter than who she was from the Holly fight, and she's evolved since the Holly fight. And the Amanda Nunes loss that's no tell that she hasn't improved. She's fighting Amanda, and a lot of people when they fight Nunes, they kind of fall under that sort of spell, you know. They all fall under this like what's the word I'm looking for? They all kind of get mentally defeated when they fight her because Amanda, given who she is and her history, she's intimidating. So a lot of girls fight afraid of Amanda Nunes. Misha Tate was intimidated. Ronda Rousey was intimidated. Pennington was intimidated. You know what I mean? Anderson was intimidated. So people who are giving Irene so much flack are acting like it's abnormal to be afraid standing in front of Amanda. Holly was frozen against Amanda Nunes and then got head kicked. At least Aldana didn't get finished in that fight. So, yeah, I think she's got a great chance to beat Holly in a rematch. I just think if she learns how to cut off the octagon, I think she should win pretty comfortably. I know Irene could be champ with Nunes out of the picture. I think Irene would butcher Pena. Yeah, I think she wins that too. A lot of people favor Pena to win that fight, and I'm a Pena lover, by the way, but I don't want to say I don't see it. Like Pena has paths to victory, but it's a really, really tough fight because Aldana is better than her on the feet. Pena's too sloppy. Aldana's too sharp. And when it comes down to the grappling, Irene Aldana has good takedown defense, and Pena's takedowns are not as effective as Amanda Nunes. So I'd imagine that Aldana will have an easier time stuffing Pena's takedowns. And if Pena gets her down, I just think Aldana is going to get back up pretty easily, and they're going to be striking. So yeah, it's tough for Pena. And even though Aldana can start slow or can be a little bit slow on the trigger sometimes, and she can let girls lead, Pena might have success on the feet with her pressure until Aldana lets her hands go. Pena can't stand with Irene. No, she can't. And Coach Sheldon Harrison thinks that Pena would run through her, which is just retarded. Oh no, I said the word. Oh, YouTube, forgive me. Don't take my channel. I'm sorry. Pena has heart, though. Yes, she does. Who do you like more, Juliana Pena or Irene Aldana? Ooh, really depends. Like on a good day, well, I don't want to say on a good day. I could like Pena on a good day or Irene on a good day, but depending on the mood, some days maybe Juliana or Irene. But as of right now, I edge Aldana. I like Irene Aldana slightly more than Pena. But when Pena was champ, like in 2022, I liked Pena more. I've sort of flip flopped on that, to be honest. Irene would KO Pena. She probably would. And people say, well, Amanda Nunes couldn't KO her, so Irene Aldana can't. That's BS. Like, MMA doesn't work like that. Like, who's to say if Pena and Amanda were to fight again? Who's to say that Amanda wouldn't KO her this time? She probably would knock her out if they fought a third time. And Irene Aldana, you know, could land a perfectly accurate, clean shot as Pena's being overzealous, and she could drop her, and she could find the finish on the ground. And Aldana has nasty ground and pound. I mean, that fight with Yana Santos was brutal. Although Pena is better off her back than Yana, still, if she's that hurt, Aldana could finish her on the ground. Amanda Nunes is the greatest of all time, just like Jones is the greatest of all time. I agree, man. Amanda Nunes is like John Jones-esque with how good she is. I definitely agree with that, 100%. So there's really no shame in Irene losing that fight, and I know it's like she didn't try, right? But Amanda is Amanda. She's a different level, and I don't know. Even if Irene tried to be aggressive, I mean, maybe she could have had more moments, but it's hard, man. Amanda's just too seasoned and smart. So I feel like she could have just found a way regardless. And then people still would have gave Irene Aldana crap. Yeah, exactly. She's the best and she's powerful. Yeah, Aldana broke her for sure. She smashed her, bludgeoned her, battered her face in. Irene had the craziest KO over Macy Chasson. Oh yeah, that was a sick finish. And let me tell you a story. So when I was watching that fight, round three, I'm anxiously watching, like, oh no, they're 1-1. Aldana can't get taken down. She's got to keep it standing so she can win a decision. Because it didn't look like she was going to KO Macy with the hands at that point. And when she got taken to the ground, I was like, oh no, Macy's just going to hold her down to a decision and win. So I remember insta DMing one of my friends, or two of my friends, like, it's over, looking down at my phone. And then one of my friends was like, let's go. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I look up at the TV and I see Macy on the floor. I'm like, oh, it's over? Aldana finished her. And I was like, so relieved, man. Like round two had me sweating like a pig because it almost looked like Aldana was going to get finished on the ground. And I'm like, please don't tell me Irene's about to get stopped. But luckily, all was good, and the better fighter ended up winning at the end of the day. So I'm happy. Irene is the BMF of female fighters. Facts. And she is a violent lady. Like, she's cute. She looks innocent, but she's vicious when she's in the cage. And I feel like MMA fans, they're so unfair when it comes to Irene Aldana. They're really unfair. Like, people will give other fighters a pass for certain things. When it comes to Irene, it's like, no, you suck. You lose to an elite fighter. You lose to Holly, a former champ, on her best night. You get like the last of a prime Holly Holm, but you suck. Lose to Amanda Nunes, you suck, apparently. You lose you lose a round against the fighter, all of a sudden you're just not that good because someone was doing good against you, which is just such bullshit. Like, Anderson Silva was losing to Chael Sonnen before he got the finish late. You know what I mean? And there were like other fights where someone was winning until someone else came back. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You know, and this kind of reminds me of how like Chasson versus Aldana reminds me of Diaz versus Edwards, because everyone expected the favorite to destroy the underdog. And the moment the underdog had one moment, that's all the fans could talk about. But what pisses me off is Aldana didn't have her Leon moment and she didn't get to kill the narrative. She just added the narrative. So, yeah, the MMA fans, they suck and they're dumb. Yeah, they haven't fought, but you're right. Yep, they are mainly idiots. I've had so many Muay Thai and kickboxing fights, and it makes me laugh. Half these people take talking shit would just shit their bridges if they were locked in the cage with Irene. Oh, facts. And oh, you know what pisses me off? There's this one guy I know who he's trained MMA all his life, and he's what, like 20 years old, 19 years old, and he thinks that he could beat Irene Aldana in a fight. And I laugh at that, you know? I laugh at that. It's just funny, you know? And he thinks that he beat her on the ground and beat her on the feet because she sucks. And I'm like, dude, if you fought Aldana, she would submit you if she wanted to, and she would knock you the fuck out if you two fought. So, and if you fought Nunes, you would also be scared. So, yeah, Irene would freaking RAPE him. Khabib versus Tony, never got to watch that. That will forever bother me that fight was never meant to be, because there's so many unknowns. Like, we can say now, oh well, he got submitted by Green, so obviously he was no threat to Khabib. But Tony's ground game is ass now. Like, Tony in his prime was a threat on the ground to Khabib, and was a threat to him on the feet. So, and I think with his unique style, I think unlike other guys back then, he could have given Khabib the most problems. Like, Khabib would have been tested. He would have been tested. We would have seen Khabib get hurt in a few moments, take a bit of damage, have to watch out for subs when he gets a takedown. And Tony's one of the few guys that can keep up with Khabib's pace and not slow down. That would have been a brutal fight. And I think Khabib probably would have won. I think it would probably be like a more competitive version of Oliveira versus Makachev, but yeah, Tony definitely could have won. And I feel like if they fought at UFC 209 in 2017, I think that night, I think Tony would have beat Khabib, because Khabib was having a rough weight cut and Tony was ready to go that day. And I feel like if Khabib didn't fall ill cutting weight, he still would have showed up like depleted. And I think at his worst, against Tony at his best, I think he loses. But I think if they fought in 2018, Khabib wins, but it's a fun fight. Tony makes it interesting. If they fought in 2020, both guys had some of the best training camps of their lives leading up to UFC 249, and 2020 was the best Khabib we've ever seen. So I'm going to say Khabib destroys him in 2020, but like 2015 and 2016, 17, Tony had the best chance. Or any time before the knee injury, Tony had the best chance. And if Pereira fight at UFC 229, Khabib versus Tony would have got rescheduled after UFC 223. Like, I remember in like July 2018, Khabib versus Ferguson was like rumored to be in the works for October 6th. And in August, boom, McGregor Khabib is announced. And then Tony just gets Anthony Pettis on the same card. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see if these two will show up on the same night. And when they did, seeing them fight in the same octagon, same night, but not against each other. That was so hard to watch. It was like, oh, he could be fighting Khabib instead of Anthony Pettis, but he's fighting Pettis, and Khabib's fighting Conor, and Khabib's easily going to beat McGregor. Well, I was worried for him against Conor because of Conor's left hand and his power, but still, Tony versus Khabib was the fight I always wanted, man. But so annoying we never got it. Yeah, Irene would knock that dude out, and yeah, she wouldn't feel bad. Tony is prime would have made him bleed. Yep. John Jones has the greasy belly. I'm confused with that comment, but okay. How do you think John Jones beats Stipe? I think he beats him by just using his wider variety of tools to his advantage. I think he will go out there, use a lot of his kicks. He'll mix it up with his kicks and his punches, keep Stipe at kicking range, and then mix in takedowns when he needs to, and wash, rinse, and repeat until maybe he finds a finish somewhere in there. The greedy belly. Yeah, Tony got screwed. He got screwed over big time. Like, he should have got a title shot way sooner. Like, I think that when Khabib pulled out of UFC 209, Tony should have just got the fight with Conor McGregor. But unfortunately, back then, Tony wasn't as big enough of a name to get the Conor fight, so he just couldn't entice Conor McGregor to want to fight him. But with Tony's name now, like, he became a star after UFC 229, and after that card, you got all the Tony's the type of guy jokes. I think post 229 is when Tony became a big star. And if Tony was the big star he is now in 2017, Conor would have took the fight with him and not fought Floyd. But he's like, why should I fight this Tony guy? I'm gonna fight Floyd, which does suck. But then after he beat Kevin, he should have got to fight Conor for the undisputed belt. But then they were gonna make him fight or defend his interim title against Khabib. But then when he got injured, they shouldn't have stripped him. But the only reason why they stripped him of his interim belt is because they were planning on making Khabib fight Conor afterwards, and they didn't want to wait for Tony. So, I mean, that does suck. But if not for Conor, then Khabib versus Al would have been for the interim belt, and Tony would have just been promoted to undisputed, and then Khabib would have got a title shot at Tony later in the year. But Conor exists, and that fight needs to happen. So, yeah, Stipe is done. Brian Ortega is who Arnold Allen should fight next. Ortega sucks ass. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he sucks, but yeah, I don't know. He definitely was a bit overrated for sure. Like Brian Ortega, I mean, he's got decent stand up. He hits hard. His elbows are dangerous, and he's dangerous on the ground. Like, his jiu-jitsu's great, but he's he's easy to hit, and he doesn't really have good wrestling to go with his jiu-jitsu. So because of that, he's not going to go far enough to win a world title. And I just don't see Brian evolving enough to really, I don't know, stay in the top five. It's like he's just holding on to his name that I'm Brian and I'm a top guy, and he's inactive. You know what I mean? But he's not willing to actually go out there and prove that he's like the top three best in that division. He got bludgeoned by Volkanovski. Oh yeah, that was a beating. And I picked Brian to win that fight too. And when he had Volk in that gilly, I'm like, yes, I'm going to be right. I'm going to look like a genius. And then Volk got out. I was like, oh, come on. Now I'm going to look stupid. And then everyone clown me after. Max broke him. Yeah, yeah. Max did a number on Brian Ortega, man. That was one of Max's best performances and one of his easiest career wins. And a lot of people thought that fight would be competitive. A lot of people thought Brian was going to win that fight, and Max just showed levels. Volk is so good at MMA. Oh, he's great. He's great. You know, he's got such a complete skill set, amazing stand up, good boxing, good kickboxing, good wrestling. He can use that to either get the fight to the ground or keep it on the feet. And his anti jiu-jitsu is just second to none. And he's got great cardio. Like, he's one of the hardest guys to beat right now. Max has to beat Ortega, Yair, Allen. I don't think he has to fight Brian again. There's no need to make that rematch. If he were to, I mean, when he beat Zombie, honestly, I don't want to see the Rodriguez rematch. I kind of want to see Rodriguez not fight someone that's already beaten him and take a more winnable fight to rebuild himself. And he already, oh, he has. I thought you said he has to. My bad. I'm slow. Yeah, you're right. He beat Ortega, Yair, Allen, and Cater. Yeah, so he should just go up to lightweight now. Volk beat Islam on damage. Look at Islam's face. But that's debatable, though, because it's not like Islam just held Volkanovski. Like, there's some of those decisions where it's like, yeah, this guy should have won because he did more damage, and the guy who wrestled didn't do any damage. But Volk was getting hit by Islam. Islam wobbled him a bunch of times, so you got to factor that as well. I think the first round, Islam Makhachev won because he stunned Volk, took him down, and then ended on Volk's back. Round two, if that moment where Islam fell was a legit knockdown, then okay, of course, Volk wins that round. But see, I saw the replay. That punch didn't land. Islam slipped. So it wasn't a knockdown. And then Islam got up, stunned him again. Same thing happened. He took him down and was on his back. So I think Islam was 2-up going into round three. I gave Volk the third round. In round four, Volk got overzealous, got his back taken, lost that round definitively. And then, yeah, the fifth round, Volk clearly won, but it was too late when he had him hurt. So, yeah, Volk did damage, but Islam did his fair share as well when it came to damage. Like, even if he didn't cut Volkanovski, he still stunned him and landed good, effective strikes in that fight. Not a robbery either way. Yeah, it definitely wasn't a robbery. Like, if they gave that fight to Volk, I would understand. I could totally get it. I don't see how Volkanovski won the fourth round. He got his back completely controlled. I mean, I gotta watch that round again, but nah. That was Islam's clearest round of the entire fight. Like, you could debate the first round because Volk stunned him to start the round. You could debate round two. Round one and two are up for debate, but I'd say round three, clear Volk won that round. Round five, it's clear he won that round. And then round four, it's clear Islam won that round. I don't agree with like 49-46 Islam, but I do give him 3-2 in that fight. Would you rather get hugged or your face caved in? I'd rather get hugged. He outdamaged him. But like I said, Islam did his fair share. He may not have cut Volk, but again, he tagged him with good shots. So he landed some good combinations on Volkanovski. So, like, he had no striking success in that fight at all, then yeah, Volk should have won the fight. Like, if in round one, if Islam did not stun Volkanovski, if he didn't like stumble him on his knees with that counter or stagger him backwards before the back take, I would have given that round to Volk. You know what I mean? So I mean, I rather not take a beating, but I mean, okay, if I'm fighting Islam Makhachev, I'm also going to get hurt as well as controlled because Islam Makhachev has hands too and he has power. Obviously, if I fight Volk, he's going to do way more damage, but that's like besides the point. You asking me, oh, would you rather get battered or hugged? Obviously, from my perspective, I'm going to choose the path of less damage. But like I said, it's not like Islam just hugged him. It's not like he just hugged him. He also outstruck Volkanovski in moments. No, no, that's not what I said. And I do agree, yes, damage over everything, but because like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but Makachev did his fair share of damage and landing good shots. So that's where Islam has to get credit for winning the close fight because it's not like all he did was hug Volk because he couldn't just fight to his normal style because Volkanovski's got such good takedown defense. Islam had to adapt and had to kind of strike with him in moments, but he didn't panic. He stayed composed and he was able to hold his own on the feet. Yeah, he does have good striking. And I mean, if they have a rematch, I'd favor Volkanovski most likely. But on that night, I do think that Islam won, in my opinion, though. Volk made the best grappler in the UFC look like a skittle ussy. That's funny. And Islam is gonna beat Charles Oliveira again, and then he's gonna fight Justin Gaethje, beat him too. And then Volkanovski will beat Topuria, and then we'll see Volkanovski versus Makachev next year. Although I have said that I kind of have a feeling Oliveira is going to pull out of the Islam 2 fight and Volk's going to slide in. But I hope I'm wrong because I want to see Charles get a second chance. But it will probably be the same result. But I can't see like any active lightweight on the roster beating Islam. I just don't see it. I think Islam's going to make every fight moving forward look easy unless he fights Alex. Volk versus Justin. Damn, what a fight that would be if Volk and Justin fought. I mean, Volk is the more skilled guy, but I don't see Volk wrestle fucking him. So I don't think Gaethje would worry about a take. Volk could outstrike him. He could pick him apart. I mean, Chandler was able to land a lot of jabs on Justin Gaethje and ding him with straight shots. And with the success Chandler had, and with Volk being a better version of Michael Chandler, he could probably pick Justin apart, but Gaethje can always land something and knock Volkanovski out. And he's one of the very few guys who could out leg kick Volk. So I'm gonna edge it to Alex, but I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Justin Gaethje knocked him out. Because look at the Dustin fight. You know, on paper, and Poirier thinks he's better, which I happen to agree. But you know, on paper, yeah, Dustin was like a good style to beat Justin. Justin kicked him in the head and knocked him out. So him knocking out Volk is always a possibility. Volk made the Russian monster look like a scared little bitch. Dustin is not Volk. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's hard to catch Volkanovski. Okay. Volk beats them all. Yeah, he most likely does. He might be the best in both weight classes currently, lightweight and featherweight. Volk would smoke Dustin. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Poirier, but yeah, I agree. I think there's always that danger that Dustin could catch him on the feet. You know, there's the power difference. Poirier is the better pure boxer. But Volkanovski could disrupt the boxing with the leg kicks and his movements and his jabs. And then he's got the wrestling. And I feel like he would do what Michael Chandler did in the second round, but without blowing his wad, without gassing himself out. And I think he just dominate with the wrestling against Dustin and win a dominant decision, I'm going to say. Yeah, he beat Max twice, not 3 times. That's something we both agree on, brother. Alrighty. So I've been on here for nearly 2 hours. Barely anyone's on. Yeah, I agree. Volk is one of the best, worthy pound for pound. And he did lose to Max, which is impressive that Max beat him in that one. But it's been a good live. It's been fun, y'all. But I'm gonna hop off this thing. And I agree, man. He is. Without Volkanovski, Max Holloway would lap the division and get like 10 plus title defenses. But he can beat anybody, but he can't beat Volk. But yeah. Just me and you talking about the best in the sport ever. Yeah, see ya. Thanks for joining though. And yeah, peace.